Hey guys, what is up? This is Alicia White, and I did a couple videos for you guys about sobriety and like my journey with sobriety, and I just wanted to kind of hop on here and see if these kinds of videos will help people, because I can definitely do them more often. I can make them scheduled, and we can chat and so on and so forth. So, in the description of the video, I kind of put about how a couple of baby birds have fallen into my path recently. And I actually came up with that analogy yesterday when I was talking to my husband because what had happened is so I've been sober for over 4 years, and um, part of your sobriety is telling other people about your sobriety. And the reason that you do that is to hold yourself accountable, because what happens is when you start talking about your sobriety and making a priority to share your gift of sobriety with other people, um, people will come out of the woodwork and talk to you about their sobriety and their issues with sobriety, and also maybe their family members or friends that they may be having an issue with it. So it kind of opens the door for them to get some help, because our society really does stigmatize the alcoholism and drug addiction in the United States, unfortunately. We make it very normal for people to get blackout drunk and wasted in bars and at parties and this kind of stuff, and making jokes about, Uncle Sam passing out at the Christmas party and this and that. So, in order to make it, less stigmatized, and for people who have drug and alcohol addictions to feel comfortable, you just kind of want to share your story. And, it's uncomfortable for some people because, uh, you'll bring it up, and because they're not comfortable in themselves and they're not secure in themselves, they may laugh at you. I've had people laugh at me to my face, professionals, including a PhD, which, which I was like, wow, that's great. You should really be in that field, helping people. But anyways, it goes back on them. It's not on you. So when someone's insecure, it's on them, right? My point was that in your journey, there's going to be baby birds that are going to be in the sidewalk on your walk of sobriety. And you can either stop and help the baby bird, or you can walk over it or around it. And I choose to help the baby bird if I can. If it's somebody that I think is actually asking for help, then I'm going to stop on my path and I'm going to help, because to me, that's kind of the universe telling me that I have an important task to do. And so what had happened is there was a particular individual who had reached out to me who I hadn't heard for a while, and this was a young person, and they had messaged me asking me about my business, because you guys know that I'm a trainer and I own a small gym. And I had, tried to set up an appointment with them, and I sent them a couple reminders. I didn't hear back from them. And at first, my reaction was kind of like, a little angry because it's wasting my time. And then it kind of crossed my mind a little bit, because I remember a couple years ago that this person had been struggling with sobriety. So it kind of crossed my mind a little bit that maybe this person was going through that, right? Not having any clue at all. And so this person reached out to me actually after they were very late, and they were like, "Hey, I'm so sorry. I slept in, blah, blah, blah. I got tied up in this project." And I'm like, yeah, you were drinking, right? Or whatever it may be, only because I know, because I've been there. So they're like, "Do you have any, time today? Blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely. Like, calm down." Not thinking, again, not really thinking of it, but kind of like it's a possibility. So they come down and we have this really long conversation, and they had mentioned their sobriety and how they were struggling, right? And so, like, not wanting to pry, obviously, but at the same time, like, it's really important to me that if I can help somebody, like, I'm going to help them, right? Because I'm really passionate about it. So I'm like, why not, do you want to talk about it? Like, do you want to talk about like what's been going on? And so we talked about it, and I could tell that they really needed help. And so their parent had dropped them off for a meeting, and I offered to give them a ride back home because it was raining, and it's a 10-minute drive from here. So you can only imagine how long it would have taken them to walk home, you know. So I drove them home. We had a nice chat, and I went to work that night, and I got home, and on my way home I'm like, you know what, I'm going to ask them if they want to come to the class tomorrow, which I had already asked them, but I knew that they didn't have a way to get there. So I was like, I'm going to offer to give them a ride. So I did. And I texted them and I was like, hey, if you want to come tomorrow, again, like thinking nothing of it, like thinking this person's going to blow me off, because that's what we do, right? As human beings, we don't want to do the work. And so, and that goes for fitness and sobriety. And I'm just looking at it as the fitness part, like, oh, they're not really, yeah, sure, come get me. I'm like, okay, great. So the next morning, I'm like, send me a text in the morning, and I go get them. They come, they work out with us, and I give them a ride home. And what really got to me was that they had said, when I pulled in the driveway, they said, I was on my day 3 of sobriety, and when you messaged me last night, today would be day 4, and I almost quit again. I almost picked up again. That would have been the day that I picked them up to bring them to class. So my point of this whole story was that my initial talk with them, and then my initial follow-up, and then basically making them come to the fitness class. And when we were talking about their sobriety, and this is totally true, they were like, well, I need to find things to make myself busy, which is totally accurate, because when you're initially having those cravings and everything else, you want an activity that you can do to help yourself take your mind off of the cravings and the fact that you're trying to cover up your emotional anxiety, your depression, whatever it may be, with your DOC. And so when I was talking to them, I was like, hey, just so you know, like fitness is a really great way, people, places, things. It's a really great way to make connections with people who are of healthy mind versus people who want to go get a drink or go out to eat. And that's great. Like going out to eat is fine, right? Like there's nothing wrong with that. But when you're focused on fitness and you're focused on a task at hand and you're focused on being motivated and you're goal oriented, whether it's you want to lift 2 more pounds extra next week, or you want to do those extra reps, or go a little bit longer versus, 10 minutes versus 20 versus 30, and just slowly working your way up, whatever your goal may be in fitness, you're actively working to achieve that. And when you become physically healthier and mentally healthier, which you do, um, you start to realize that, like, hey, this thing is getting in my way, and it's preventing me from being successful as an athlete and as a person who wants to now better themselves and become healthier. And that's kind of where the fitness really comes into play for me, because the fitness part of it is incredibly integral. Because if I didn't have fitness, I think I would have been totally batshit nuts, because fitness was the only thing that I kept going back to. And I remember when I was an alcoholic, I used to have a tank, and I don't have it anymore. And it said, this is my church. Just write on it, this is my church. Because that's what the gym was for me. Because I would go in, I would work out for an hour, like 6 days a week. And I know that's nuts, but that's what I used to do. And imagine if I didn't do that. Imagine if I didn't do that, like how much worse my life could have been. And my life was bad. It was bad. So, my whole thing is like, if you're getting sober and you have been sober and you have a piece of time and you can share it with people, share it with people. If someone comes across your path and you kind of can sense that there's something going on with them, talk to them. And you don't have to like come down on them or make them feel bad or whatever it may be, but just like make them feel human, because in our society, we really just make addicts and people who are addicted to alcohol like out to be these monsters. And the thing is, if you ever sit in on a meeting, we're not monsters. We're just human beings that happen to be addicted to a substance that is rewiring our brains and making us a certain way. So And the other piece, not in addition to helping people, which 100% can help you with your recovery and also help you stay sober, is the fitness aspect. So if you are on that hamster wheel and you're like I remember when I would go home from work and it was like, okay, pop open whatever that may be, whatever that drink may be. Um, and then in the morning, it's like, can't wait to get home from work so I can that was it. That was my life. I was on the hamster wheel. So I'd get up hungover, feeling like shit. I do my recovery drink, usually a mix of Red Bull juice and seltzer water. I would go to work hungover and reeking of booze all day, probably have five people ask me if I was all right. And then I would somehow make it, I would somehow get through an entire day of work, somehow get home. And like, of course, some days were better than others. It wasn't every day that I was like that. Um, but then like, it was a hamster wheel, man. And like, you want to get off the hamster wheel. The only way to do that is to change your patterns and change your behaviors and change anything. It can be anything. And my whole thing, like, is you sit down, you want to pick up, go for a walk. You sit down, you want to pick up, grab that journal and start writing. You sit down, you want to pick up, don't sit down. Like, go do something, open a book. Like, when's the last time you read a book? You know what I mean? When's the last time you called your cousin? When's the last time you XYZ ABC? Because you only have to do it for 2 3 minutes before that is gone. Because that's the addict brain telling you that you need it. You don't need it. Like, you need it, but you don't need it. Like, you can overcome it. I've done it. And no, it's not easy. And yes, it did take me 15 years to quit. But anyways, I hope this helps you guys. I know that there are people who watch these, which is great. And again, if there is something specific that you want me to talk about, or if you want me to do one of these again at like a specific time or whatever it may be, like, please tell me because I am more than happy to do it. I actually am researching becoming a recovery coach. So hopefully I can make, doing these like a priority so I can share my experiences with you guys. And I hope that you are having a blessed and healthy day. It is the 1st of November. I can't believe Halloween is already come and gone. My absolute favorite holiday. And I hope you all had a wonderful one at that. And we'll see you soon, I hope.